I now call this regular city council meeting on Tuesday, October 27th to order. If you'll rise, I'll lead us in the invocation followed by the pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for all of our citizens and for our employees, Lord. Watch out for them and keep them safe in this weather, Lord. Lead, guide, and direct us. Help us through tonight's agenda and help us to make good decisions for this city, Lord. Forgive us where we fail you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For joining us tonight, Janine, no comment?
No, sir.
Mitch, are there any new city employees?
No.
Next, we will consider and approve the minutes from the October 20th meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as read?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Dan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll consider and approve the monthly departmental reports. If you have a question, please identify the page.
I gotta ask on page 5, I don't think I've ever seen that many overtime in PD in as many years as I've been here.
I was down 5 officers.
Holy cow.
I was down 5 officers. 2 quit. 2 figured out that police work wasn't for them. 1 was on suspension, and 1 was being hired on, and I don't think the other one was sick. And right now, I have 3 officers out with COVID.
And so you have more overtime in October now.
No likelihood. We're trying to have 1 officer on the street during the day, and CID and myself are assisting with calls. But right now, I don't know. The other, I had another 3 officers test negative, so that's a little bit of light on the end of the tunnel. 1 of my officers is supposed to come back the 2nd of February. Another one is supposed to come back, not February, November. The 2nd of November and the 5th of November. And the other one may be back somewhere around the 9th of November.
Have any potential new hires?
I have a new hire that he would be here today, except that he's still on his honeymoon. He's the newest officer, newest full-time officer. I've got an officer right now going through FTO program, Jeff Rockney, and he'll probably be working tonight with Steve McClung. But yes, this right here is a result of being 5 officers down.
Let's check them.
But we're trying to work on it right now.
That'll throw off your overtime budget pretty quickly if you keep that up.
Yes, sir.
Page 37, I don't know if I'm going to skip all that much, but page 37 in the budget report, I don't know if I've ever just overlooked this before, but in the Fund 08 Youth Detention Center, which probably needs to be renamed, delinquent tax collection, 1 year shows $700,000 in total budget. And then why is that number there? I don't understand why that is there in that line.
Oh, that should be down at the rent from facilities. It probably typoed it.
Okay, I thought that was very odd.
But yeah, it would be under 5201. It's 700,000 budget,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it got caught under 5021.
Okay, so it should be
5201.
5201? Okay, okay. All right, just wanted to check that.
I was going through the checks and balances too. And just a quick question, I usually call Mitch on stuff like this, I didn't have time to do it. On page 48, parts for hydrant, and then the bottom of the page.
Probably that repair we had to do. Yeah, we had to completely rebuild the fire hydrant. And didn't have a shut-off valve on it. But now it does have a shut-off valve, and it's from there.
So that's how much it costs to replace the whole thing?
Yeah, it probably will be a little less if we do have a valve in that's good in the future, because we've got to address quite a few of them. But this was an expensive problem that didn't have a shut off and was a real mess.
One page over on page 49, I asked you about this earlier, Mitch, just want to bring it up. We had about $8,500 worth of emergency equipment and lighting and radio for this new emergency management Tahoe, and just want to make sure that's covered by COVID relief money.
I think so. Monica, do you remember? I can't remember if that's, it's not
As
your
far as I
department.
know, it is. I think he's having to challenge some early decisions on it because of maybe the way it was first submitted. But they are still in conversation. It was pretty much in black and white in some of the earlier documentation that would be covered. They're kind of trying to renege on a few things, but he's challenged it, and the lady he's talking to in the program feels like it will probably go ahead and go through.
Any other questions on the monthly departmental report? If none, can we get a motion to approve the report?
I'll make a motion to approve the reports with the exception of that error that needs to be corrected. Is that okay? And, what would that,
Well, you passed the budget, so that's just a typo.
was that in the budget originally?
Yeah.
Oh, how I missed that. I was so thinking, shouldn't have overlooked it, but I sure did. Okay. Well, then we'll fix that in the budget then, I guess.
Well,
We
it's
haven't amended
just
on
on
it?
paper.
Just on paper. But it's in the right spot though.
Well, I'll switch it over.
Okay.
I second the motion.
So to clarify, the motion is to approve the monthly departmental reports, and he's going to fix that error. Is that correct? And it's been seconded by Michael. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we will consider and approve an ordinance of the City of Littlefield, Texas, amending Chapter 11, Section 11.04.002 of the Code of Ordinances, repealing and replacing the new hotel occupancy tax rate. Mitch?
We discovered this, this discrepancy between, what we have been charging in the forms and stuff for the hot tax, and we thought we were right and we were wrong, so we went back and we researched this quite heavily and did find where it is actually 7%, so we need to fix the ordinance to reflect the 4% that we've been doing since 2013. This will fix that problem, and
So,
I don't know what else to say about it other than 7 years it's been charged at 4%. I don't see a reason to go with 7% on it.
It should have
We can't
been,
spend all the money we have anyway in there.
it should have been 7, or we were charging 7, and it should have been 4, or?
Well, it's 7%, but it's 4% on all the forms and stuff that we use, and has been that way since 2013.
so the changes when we're talking about not being implemented, the forms were not updated. So therefore, 4%'s been charged since 2013.
Since 2013.
When it should have been 7%.
We don't want to, penalize these guys for, I don't know why when they passed it back in 2013 that they didn't change the forms and start charging everybody the 7 instead of 4. I wasn't here. Anyway, we saw this problem and we researched it and finally found where, yeah, it needs to be fixed, so this is fixing.
So they'll be, the hotels won't notice a difference, they'll be getting charged the same thing?
Yes, there won't be any change to what they've been paying all along. And it's, you know, it's just something that I don't know how it came about or what, but, I mean, we have over $100,000 in that fund, so I just don't see any need to have more of a burden on our hotels. We put in for the state to allow us to maybe start using that for some park stuff, which I think would be a really good thing, but we'll have to wait for the legislature to look into that.
Entertain a motion to repeal and replace this tax rate with the rate that's been being charged.
I'll make a motion, we approve the ordinance. And continue charging tax rates that's being charged. Obviously.
Motion's been made by Michael, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion been seconded by Kenny, is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Next, we'll consider and approve the 2021 calendar, Mitch.
Don't see anything really out of the ordinary there. Christmas, we usually meet a week early just to kind of get away from the Christmas week. And put this together, looks pretty standard. Don't have any one there we've changed, just to try to stick to the fourth Tuesday as usual.
Entertain a motion, we adopt the 2021 calendar.
I'll make the motion.
Motion's been made by Ben, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Kenny. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Next, we'll consider and approve tax deeds for trust properties in the city of Littlefield, parcel 20687 at 913 West 11th Street, and parcel 19781 at 501 West 2nd Street.
Mayor, these are just two kind of nothing lots. Don't have a problem at all with one David Perez. He's, I think he's got a lot of big plans. He tends to take care of the business and stuff. Getting a really cheap deal. One of these, we actually just demolished the house on 913 West 11. And then 501 West 2nd's just a lot out. The house probably fell down years ago. You know, one of the things we kind of talked about is not selling these lots, but these are, were ones that were already set up to be sold back before we started talking about that. You know, it could be a possibility of us retaining these lots and using them to, you know, bring folks to town, but, you know, this guy, he saw a bargain, put in a bid, and he's trying to make a buck probably on the American way. So, don't know what to tell you on that. You can reject it or accept it.
West 11th's over there east of the tennis courts or what?
Oh, yeah, that's the one, kind of, a little bit east of Food King, just kind of in the middle of the block there. It showed a big mess. We tore it down and put on the barn behind it. Both of these are in SF2, so you can put manufactured homes on if something too. You only got water, sewer, streets. One's got two other properties he's bought from
he doing with those? I mean, is he mowing them? keeping
It's
them-
all right, I don't have any problems with you guys. Not a lot to do with these things. We don't have any under any code enforcement issue right now. He's up on taxes and current on utilities.
Entertain a motion for approval or disapproval of these lots.
I make a motion, we accept these bids for Juan David Perez on West, 913 West 11th and 501 West 2nd.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Ben. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll convene into executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code 551-1071 to seek advice of the city attorney about pending or contemplated litigation settlements offered as required by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. With this James Thomas complaint. At this time, the city management and the council. Thank you. It's now 6:28. We have returned from executive session where no action was taken. This time we'll reconvene into open session to take action if necessary regarding the matters discussed in executive session. And this time there's no action. Next, we'll consider and approve the 2021-2022 PDA Texas CDBG engineering selection and authorization of execution of contract. Mitch?
In front of you, you've got a little short memo there. This is our grant source that we go to every 2 years it's a block grant, federal money that passes through the state, back to the municipalities for projects to serve the low and moderate income, people. And, we want to apply for that again. It's, a good program and kind of meat and potatoes for us. And one of the first things that kind of changed this up over the years, one of the first things is we have to procure an engineer to do the work for the public improvements project we've been looking toward is more wastewater. That was the majority of the last grant, and it really needs to be the focus for this grant too. We've got some upgrades we want to do to the wastewater lift stations, and we received 4 applications for our proposals for engineering, and we scored those, and Park Hill was the highest score getter on Mike and I scored the proposals, and so we're recommending Park Hill. And I would ask that you accept the proposal from Park Hill and authorize the execution of contract. When that's developed, it has to be developed according to the state requirements and AI engineering stuff.
Same stuff we've always go through with this.
Same deal.
Entertain a motion to approve Parkhill, Smith and Cooper as the engineering selection and authorize the execution of the contract.
I make a motion, we accept Park Hill to execute the contract for the CDBG grant.
Motion's been made by Michael. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion been seconded by Kenny. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next Next, we will consider and approve the interlocal fire protection agreement with Ramsey County. Chief Gray, is there anything different or the same as always?
It's the same as always. It's something that we're probably gonna need to revisit here, because it's been a while. I talked with Fire Chief Mike Gilbertson, and they're, I think, discussing some different things, and, we're supposed to get together in the near future. I know there's nothing we can do this year, but, it's something that probably will need to be discussed probably in the summertime with the Commissioner's Court, so it doesn't just get them there at the end or something. But we definitely need to start thinking about it and looking at it.
One of the aspects of that is billing the landowner. Does the city still do that?
No. That hasn't been done in several years that I'm aware of. We, when we got that agreement, I guess, signed with all of the fire departments in the county and with the county, that one.
Why, it's in the contract, why don't we do that?
I think it's an option, isn't it?
It is an option. It says,
Yeah.
the city may choose to, or see if the city
You know-
chooses to, but wondering why we don't.
Councilman, it's just, that, what, $300?
Mhm.
It's probably, I guess for lack of a better term, I mean, $300 is probably not something that, the amount needs to be a lot more higher than that. That $300 is not something that we probably want to have bad PR over.
The city tried it in the past and just got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, this $600, it's just not enough. I mean, and $300 to a landowner, all the stuff that you go through trying to collect it and everything, it's not.
Well, they pay county taxes, therefore the county should just pay the fire department a subsidy
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
of what they deserve, or else get their own fire truck.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, what is the total in the year? Do we have a total of what they paid last year? And so do we have that somewhere in our reports?
Yes.
$600 is barely buy a tire on one of these trucks sometimes.
Andrew might know where.
5420, it'd be like on page 35, where we took in 15,000.
What was the number again?
5240.
5240.
Now, towards the bottom of the page.
5420.
5420. 15,000 is our budget.
10,000 is the budget we took in.
15 is the activity. So 15,000 divided by 600, that was let's see.
300, because the county's only paying, so it's 55. The county's only.
The county pays 600.
The county pays 600.
Or the county's
Yeah,
paying.
the county pays 600. Yeah, so 15,000 for fire service for the whole county. Now, they're also probably paying Amherst.
They are. We have a certain response area, okay?
Mhm.
Set up by SPAD and 911. And anytime we go outside that response area now, that's a mutual type, like a mutual aid call if we go help Amherst. So we're not being paid for that.
You don't bill for that one then?
No.
So Amherst gets the $600.
Well, if it's in their response area, they do.
And if you go out to help, you don't get anything?
No, it's a mutual aid response.
Well, that seems ridiculous, because that's moving equipment that costs money to move.
Well, I understand it. Texas law has a mutual aid clause though in it, the administrative code. Mitch might could look that up, but you have, when someone asks for help, you have to go help them. And
Well, I understand
there's
that.
certain things in there that, you know, if we was to, you know, run a truck or something, whatever, you know, they're not held liable, if someone gets hurt, you know, it is what it is, mutual aid call.
So mutual aid basically means if you're going out there, if they're going after the call and you think they might need help, you go out to help.
No, we only go when we're requested.
When you request it, and who requested it? You.
Well, if they need help, they request it.
They request it.
Yeah. If we need help, we request it from them.
I think the theory on that is that it balances out, and, you know, we assist with, let everyone assist us sometimes. That's kind of statewide, that's kind of the gentleman's agreement between mutual aids is that there's not any money that changes hands on.
Well, that's what I think that is in the contract. If you have a mutual aid call, you should be getting more from the county because you're getting double the equipment going out to, or triple the equipment going out to that call that they didn't have to pay for. Right?
I understand.
So
I'm not
why
arguing.
is it we never brought this up before?
Yeah.
Why is it that's not even been addressed before?
The mutual aid is not us assisting the county, the mutual aid is us assisting somebody. out of the
Radio,
county.
but the, let's say the fire department goes out there and can't handle the call and everything gets burned up. You know, wouldn't the county have done better by paying both facilities or both districts to go out and get it done?
I understand what you're saying, but we've had as many as 5 or 6 departments on call before, even some from out of county.
Must be a big fire.
And yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but there's things that, like right now, for whatever reason, we're not being paid to respond to automobile accidents out in the county. And I don't know why, because those have increased tremendously, especially deer calls that we're required to be on. The only thing we're paid on is a fire call.
Didn't you do 2 of them yesterday? 2
Yeah,
responses?
Yeah, 2 responses.
Over the next year, the departments in the county, y'all's plan is to go visit with Commissioner's Court and come up with a.
Yeah, we're, like I said, me and the fire chief from Sudan and some of the others, we're gonna visit with the judge and kind of see where they're at with it and try to figure something out because they know that you know it's been this way for I don't know how many years. I don't know when the last time it was renewed, but they know that it needs to go up and things need to change now. What that'll be, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, the contract says here, the citizens of rural Land County for fighting fires outside the territorial jurisdiction. It doesn't say anything about a car wreck.
Right.
So yeah, you're not gonna get paid for a car wreck. This contract doesn't have anything to do with that.
Well, we don't get paid for any type of rescue call.
Well, all we have is fighting fires.
Right.
That's what's in the contract.
Absolutely. Right.
If you really wanted to get paid for other stuff, we should have addressed that before they went and approved it at the courthouse. You know, where there's a complaint, it should have been addressed before it came to us. You know what I'm saying?
This contract is the same contract we've had for I don't know how many years. That's what I'm saying. It needs to be addressed, but there's nothing we can do about it this year. So, you know, next year, starting sometime in the summer, we probably need to start looking at it a little more seriously. But to get some things, try to get some things changed.
Agreed. I'll make a motion to approve this contract as it is for this year.
Motion's been made by Dan, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Michael.
Ken.
Like Ken, excuse me. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Next up, we have the annual renewal of the EMS ambulance service agreement with Land County, which there was some changes this year. I believe, Monica, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir, there was substantial change. In fact, it's an entirely new contract this year. The county initiated the change in respect of they wanted to get out of the ambulance own ambulance business. So the county, other cities in the county actually owns their ambulances. Littlefield was a sole exception in that they gave us money every year. The major change that we're gonna see here, excuse me, that we're gonna see here, is that instead of, having, money every other year from the county, we'll have money every year. It's going to, basically be split, but it will be a greater amount of money. The county allowed us quite a bit of input on negotiating the final pot of money to be split. And then they also allowed tasked us with all the EMS directors in the county getting together to see what the final split between the services would be. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to receive $110,000 a year from the county. It will be set aside for EMS use specifically. For our service, it will be set aside for fleet maintenance, or fleet purchases. By doing this, it's going to give us a little bit more leeway in managing our fleet. Will really work to our advantage. The payments are also going to be consistent, where it's not going to have an outside influence of, in the past, we were given the amount of money that was spent on an ambulance the previous year for the county. So that could vary from year to year because of what was purchased. It will also be offset if that entity got a grant to offset the money. So we could see a lot of fluctuation in the actual amount of money that we would get. This will make it consistent, make it a lot easier for us to plan. I think there's a lot of advantages for us. There's certainly a lot of, advantages to the little county services because a lot of times they didn't need an ambulance, but were forced to take one because they came out of rotation.
Monica, under the old deal, how often were the small services on rotation? Did they get ambulance money every 4 years?
It was every 8 years. Is what they would get. Littlefield would get it every other year. The county services would get it every 8 years.
And it was about $250,000 every time they did?
It was running about $235,000. That is, or a little less. We went back to the county, asked them to put in the insurance money that they were using to cover, liability insurance on the trucks, as well as a little bit of other subsidies. So we got the pot up to $250,000 from actually a start off of $180,000. So we're getting $110,000 per year. The county services are getting $35,000 a piece per year. And that money, for them can be used, either on fleet or purchases or whatever.
So we're still getting more equitable stake in because of our call volume?
Yes, sir.
Does this contract meet your needs?
Yes, sir. We're very happy with it. Like I say, they let us have a tremendous amount of input on this, so we're very happy with it countywide, and certainly we are here. It's going to meet our needs for the immediate future. We will be able to go back to the county in a couple of years and ask, for an increase.
If there's no other questions, thank you, Mark. This time, would entertain a motion to approve the interlocal agreement concerning ambulance services.
I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement concerning ambulance service with the county.
Second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Ben. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Next, we will consider and approve the water and sewer connection request from the truck wash facility planned adjacent to the city limits. Nick?
We received a request from truck washing facility, and I would consider this a satellite business to the milk plant. These are milk trucks. And, kind of looking at the big picture of things, we don't really get any taxes off of the milk plant. Don't get taxes off this. It's outside the city limits right now. So I guess one of the biggest benefits we'll have to these satellite businesses are, jobs and selling them water. So this is a big request for 50,000 gallons a day, which amounts to probably $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And I believe we can meet this fairly easily with our production, especially with the 2 new wells that we're planning to do this winter. So I would recommend that we approve this request with some stipulations. First stipulation is that they pay for all the extensions. We're probably looking at a bore under a state road, which is pretty expensive and a little dicey, but they'll have to work with TxDOT to get that approval, and that cost would be all on them, and then whatever part of that installation that we want to be on our system, they'll dedicate that with right-of-way and so forth. But in looking at the drawings and stuff, it's accessible. It's not readily accessible. They'll have to pay a lot of money to do it. Also, the wastewater was a big thing that they're requesting, and we've had some analysis done on the constituents and the strength of the wastewater. And just by chance, Mike our new utility director has had some recent experience with a similar situation, so he kind of knew the right things to help us through this. And so we got some samples that we looked at and had an engineer look at it, and our engineer, and we feel like it won't harm our wastewater, but we will require them to dilute it to lessen the strength of the waste flow to us. And then the third stipulation would be to have an agreement with them allowing us to annex that property, and that they wouldn't object to us annexing the property should we want to annex it someday, because it is adjacent to our city limits. So what I'm asking is for you to approve by ordinance. Council has to approve connections to our water and wastewater system, and that's what this is for. And I ask that you put these stipulations on that approval. That's about all the information I can get you without some engineering work and stuff like that to figure out the exact cost for all the work that will have to be done for them to tie into us.
This be exterior washes only?
Yes, sir. That is the exterior and interior washing of the tankers, the acid wash, the sterilizing wash. There's actually 3 different washes that go through the inside of that tanker. And then there'll be 2 washes on the outside of the truck, a wash and a rinse. We're saying that they'll do about 50,000 gallons a day.
And it will be milk trucks only, no cattle trucks?
Correct. It's milk tankers only.
And are we okay with washing the tankers out? I mean, they wash them at the milk plant, and they have all the anaerobic digesters and everything, so why are they needing to do it here also?
The amount of milk left in the tanker is minimal, but I requested a TSS test and a DOD test and a pH test on each one of those individual washes. And 2 of them were outside of our parameters. The pH is too acidic, and the total suspended solids. But if they put in a 1,000-gallon tank out there and mix water with it, we will be fine. It won't hurt my bugs. But if we just let them wash those out and shoot it right down into our lines, yeah, it would not be a good thing for us.
So will they have to do weekly spot testing? How will we test that?
As I talked to Mitch, I might have them do daily tests. And I also want, in our agreement with them, if they decide to go ahead and come here, that we have the ability to do spot checks ourselves, send stuff to our own lab, and that way we can be sure.
How much does a test cost if we send them off approximately?
For the 3 tests that I would definitely want, it would be $200.
We would probably want in our agreement that they would pay for so much random testing a year then also.
That would be.
Would that be necessary? Would that just be part of?
We would probably set up some sort of a permitting system, rhythm, where they'll have to meet. We would want our engineers to design something for us to make sure that we meet all of the requirements for our wastewater plant. We don't want to get ourselves in trouble with TCQ, so that's going to be the big regulating thing there, is that whatever we do, we don't want to kill our wastewater ponds, the aerobic stuff that goes on in there.
So if they buy 50,000 gallons per day, and that's a real number, that's not hyped up, that's a real.
From the paperwork I've seen from their operation in Kansas, that's very close to what their output is there a day.
So they'll buy roughly $64,000 worth of water from us a year. And then how does the wastewater rate, it ties on the water?
50,000 a day?
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be more than 50,000 a day, because I'm going to make them put that tank and dilute that to our specs.
Okay.
So it's going to be more than 50.
You have 18 million gallons.
Be about, let's say you take 50,000 times 365, that's 18 million gallons.
I'm sorry, you want 5.
About per month, so it'll be more interesting.
Times,
It's 1.5 million gallons a month, which is a decent sized user, but 1.5 million gallons, and they pay $3.50 per thousand, roughly. That's-
How would this affect our agreement with Floyd Thompson as far as him using water for his agriculture?
Just add more wastewater to the deal.
yes, he could put out a lot more water than he does.
No, I mean, as far as if the solids and all that stuff, or
That's what they're saying, it's gotta be within specs, because it will kill the bacteria in our ponds.
We're gonna make them dilute it to a point to where it's gonna be the same as what we've got. We'll just have more volume of water.
That's what the 100 gallon tank is.
Well, I understand that, I'm just saying, is there any potential for us to mess him up, I guess, if they mess up and not?
I don't see
They've
anything.
got bigger problems in their wastewater farm. If they kill the cultures in the wastewater plant, then we've got a big problem. But that's what he's doing, is testing.
Yeah.
But the math on that, 50,000 gallons per day, $1.5 million per month, is $64,000 a year in water sales, not 400,000. But what is the wastewater rate reflect on that? How much is?
So if they're wasting, or if they're sewering 50 a day, then we would get like 25, probably $4,500 a year on sewer.
Not very much on the sewer end of it.
So looking about $7 grand a year. So, do we want to eat the cost of a random test? How often do you want a random test?
Yeah, there needs to be, like he said, we'll need to design a permit where they have to be permitted annually. That way, if they don't get permitted, we don't have to provide them water and sewer.
Yeah, we're not gonna try to we're gonna get engineers to help us figure out how.
But as part of that permit fee, we could get tests included in that, where if it's $200 per test and we're gonna do 60 of them twice a month or once a week, then we could cover the cost in that permit fee with them, would be the simplest.
Right, we'd charge them a surcharge of some sort.
So where is this property, can you say, or?
It's just right outside the track, there on 54, on the north side, still mobile, I think mobile oil business.
To annex them, we would have to annex more, you can't just jump out there and annex them.
I think you could, because it touches the city limits. You can't go out and jump. Whatever you annex has to be adjacent, and we're adjacent there on the road.
Yeah, but it's talking about the size, you can just take that little property, it'd be silly to spend all
Well,
the legal aspect of it.
That's why we wouldn't want to try to annex them right now. I mean, if we do annex it, it should be part of a bigger project to annex several properties. And you definitely wouldn't want 7 acres there to be in a position where they're not going to want to be annexed. That's why you'd want to agree with them.
So
Because the only leverage you got for annexation is a lot of times is utilities. So if they're going to use our utilities, then we'll need to be able to annex them.
But my point is Roy Thompson owns a building in between the city limits and this property. Therefore, if Roy objects to it, and I don't know enough about annexation, to know that it may, are we gonna get a payment in lieu of taxes in this annexation agreement? Are we gonna get a payment in lieu of taxes until the point we annex them?
I haven't asked them about a payment in lieu of taxes, and anything that, the actual taxes on the property, well, probably wouldn't be very much money.
I think we should get a payment in lieu of taxes if we're gonna offer them our city services. I mean, we're gonna sell them services, but annexation would be the goal because we're gonna get property taxes on their facility, whatever it's valued at. But in the meantime, annexation is probably expensive, and we've gotta go through a couple of property owners to annex this north side of 54. And so, they can pay us some annexation agreement. I don't know what what's these facilities worth, Mike?
Hey, Mike, how much did they spend on the one?
Shallow. How much did they spend on the facility?
Oh, it was close to 350,000.
Not a huge property.
Yeah, it's not very much.
They had 21 acres. They service the trucks there though, which they're not going to do that there. I mean, they change the oil, everything at that location. And it's a overnight stop for some of the drivers, beds, things like that there as well.
But, so the tax rate on that would be about $2,500 per year, $350,000 at our tax rate. So, it might be that we want to charge them a payment in lieu of taxes, well, we wouldn't want it to be a non-annexation agreement. But
Well,
maybe,
yeah, it would be. It'd be a payment in lieu of taxes would be a, saying as long as you pay this
we won't
payment,
annex you.
we won't annex.
But if we ever decide to annex you, you can agree to it.
Yeah, I think it's something we should always put in when we provide utilities outside the city limits. I think we should always give people stuff.
I think it's a good deal. I mean, it adds jobs to the community. They're going to live in Littlefield. We're going to sell them water and wastewater. If they pay for all the extension costs and it meets our parameters for going to the sewer plant, especially if they'll agree to let us annex them and pay us a payment in lieu of taxes until that time, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do it. Any other thoughts? So how do you want this motion, Mitch?
What you can do is just approve it with those stipulations as we discussed, plus pilot agreement, payment of no taxes.
Make a motion, we approve the request for water and sewer extensions outside the city limit to the potential truck wash. And this request is good for 6 months. We need to put a time frame on it. They need to either do it or come back to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Make it,
Good year. Give them a
good
year.
good for.
I'll do it for a year. This request is granted for a year from this date of acceptance with the following contingencies: that the customer will pay off for all extensions of connection costs for water and sewer services, and that they'll pre-treat or dilute wastewater as required by the city. That a permit process will be designed, giving them an annual permit, and that they will accept a pilot program, and with that they would accept annexation if ever requested. Does that cover it all?
I think so. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made by Eric, seconded by Michael. Are there any other discussions or amendments? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve a resolution documenting policies and procedures related to procurement of real property, business services, and conflict of interest of public officer and employees of the city of Littlefield. This is an item from the last meeting where you requested an ordinance or resolution kind of documenting the process and references to state laws that basically say that we would follow state law.
I noticed there's some changes in this new edition. It looks like they changed public officers and employees, took out the, and changed it to local public officials. That's fine in the resolution. It just brings up the question of whether employees, because of the ordinance, the city charter just states that an officer or employee of the city shall have a financial interest directly or indirectly in the sale to the city of any land or rights or interest in any land, materials, supplies, or services. So therefore, basically what I was trying to do with our resolution was allow it, I know it doesn't say in the laws of the state that there's anything regarding employees, but that kind of puts the employees in a bind because of our city charter. Because let's say we have an employee who has a spouse or a child who works at a place that might have business relations with the city of Littlefield, kind of makes it where we can't work there, or we can't do any business with them because of that direct or indirectly part of the charter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. We do have a pecuniary policy in our personnel policy that basically prohibits employees from benefiting from a city contract or
Let's
something.
get Brian on the line, because it's going to turn into
Like either have to own 2%.
Brian, this is Mitch. We're discussing the item regarding the resolution for at the end of the agenda for the yes.
And Councilman Warren has a question about the employees, and can you restate your question to him, Ben?
Yeah, it looks like with the new update, you had changed the heading and added from public officers and employees, made it to local public officials. And my question is that in the charter, it still states that officer or employee of the city shall have financial interest directly or indirectly in the sale to the city of any land or rights or interest in any land, materials, supplies, or services, except as authorized by the accordance with the constitutional laws of the state of Texas. And what that leaves open is the fact that employees can be directly or indirectly prohibited from doing any business with the city of Littlefield. Like say, for instance, if they have a spouse or a child who works at a business that, that might do business with the city of Littlefield, they won't be able to because of the charter imposition on that. Is that correct?
Well, I think also, Lisa talked to Mitch about this, the employees, there's an existing city policy, is that correct, Mitch? That says employees, and I don't know the exact policy that we talked about, but that prohibits employees from benefiting, and I can kind of give that detail too, Mitch, and then I'll.
Well, the policy is related to employees, and it doesn't really address spouses of employees that I know of. But our policy just says that an employee can't provide services or
That's helpful. So, yeah, then when they, so we originally had in there, and employees, that it was, but in looking at 171, it does have that local, public official, that's a defined term.
Exactly.
And that's who it applies to, and so it doesn't apply to employees, which is why I revised that out.
Right. I understand that. I didn't realize that there was a city policy in place. I was trying to cover all our bases in this situation.
I think it still gets you where you want, because I do not think our personnel policy says spouses of employees.
Well, but we're talking, well, when you talk about employees, sometimes you also bring in the fact of the relationships, like, what is it called?
Nepotism.
Nepotism.
That's just on hiring.
And that's going to be a separate, yeah.
Okay, but as long as spouses or children or anybody who's close related is not affected by this, and that's fine with me.
Well, I just didn't want our resolution to cancel out our
To
policy.
conflict with the policy, I understand.
Because it's a good policy. We don't want the Mitch Grant business doing consulting work for Mitch Grant as city manager
Sure, yeah.
for a lot of money. I mean, it's just an example, but
Yeah.
that's something we don't want to start to do.
Well, you're already an employee. How can you be
And as far as the spouses go, that's kind of covered with state law already, but it's not covered in our policies. So I think your question about affecting a spouse that works for a business that we do contract work, unless it's a huge connection type thing.
But you can't buy T-shirts from Andrew's T-shirt company under this or under current policy, is that correct, Mitch?
Yes, our current policy does not allow that.
Sorry. Okay, just want to clear that up. That sounds good.
Yeah, good questions.
Okay.
And so, Brian, this just basically mirrors state law and reiterates state law, that it is optional for a councilman to do business with the city, and there's a specific way we have to go through the check register.
Yep. Yep, and if if it comes up, then the council member will sign file the affidavit, and then abstain from discussion or voting on a particular action item.
Now, let me ask you this, is that an affidavit that would carry through a person's term in case they did do business, or would it have to be done every time it came up?
I think it's every time, as in what I remember looking at, it is a case-by-case issue.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Thank you. All
Very
right.
good, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
No problem, if you think anything else, let me know.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-09-22. Wait, that's wrong. It's actually not, what's the date? 10/27. It should be 2020-10/27.
Motion's been made by Ben. So the state law does allow for this. This just reiterates, because like he had brought up, there is confusion in the past with how this could be handled. I still personally disagree with Councilman doing business with the city, but the policy, because it mirrors state law, it makes sense to me. There's a motion on the floor. There's a second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ben, seconded by Michael. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
We did approve the one not in the packet.
Right.
It must be nice.